Welcome to Fantasy Football Hub for the next episode in the My Team series. Today I'm joined by a very special guest. It is Will, the founder of Fantasy Football Hub himself, who's going to be revealing his current FPL draft. Not only is he the founder, he also has 4 top 1k finishes in his FPL history, 7 top 10k, a really impressive record. Will, pleasure to chat to you today. I'm very excited to see who you've got in your team.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, absolute pleasure to be on. I've been watching all the videos and there's some very, very strong drafts out there, and you've got some very good players on the channel now. And yeah, great to see you leading the YouTube stuff. It's come a long way since the days of me being on it, that's for sure.
Well, that's when I used to watch the channel back in the day, was when you were the one doing the videos, and they were great. So yeah, let's see your team for today. As you said, there have been some really, really strong drafts so far with some absolutely top percentages using Fantasy Football Hub's My Team tool. Going to see where your team rates. As always, guys, if you want to take part in this yourself, get your team plugged into the tool for absolutely free and see your team rating. The link is down below. Try and beat Will. So Will, start us off. Who is in goal?
I've gone for Onana, actually, between the sticks. I've sort of been toying with, it's either him or a 4.5. But yeah, United got good early fixtures. He's obviously a good goalkeeper. And I think he's got a bit of a better chance of getting bonus points over De Gea just because he's, he's used to doing those, or he's very good at the passing, which helps a little bit for bonus. Having said that, I think it's unlikely that he's going to pick up a lot of bonus. But yeah, with United fixtures at 5 million, save $1 million off someone like Shaw. I think he's a decent option. But yeah, either him or probably Johnson are the ones I'm considering at the moment.
Okay, so Onana in goal, and are you pairing him with another keeper, or are you going for a bargain bucket sort of 4 million?
Yeah, just plumped for Areola as a 4.0 backup. I think he's the most likely 4.0 to get any minutes, but yeah, not giving it too much thought, especially with Onana in goal. He's going to start all the matches.
So interestingly, right, you've played the game for decades almost at this point, right? A very good history, as I've already mentioned, illustrious. We all know that the majority of the time there is that 4.5 keeper that comes to the fore and is the standout goalie to go for. A lot of people don't want to spend a lot of money in goals. You've gone for a 5 million. Why is that over a 4.5?
Honestly, it's not something which I'm set on, but at the moment, the 4.5s to go for are Steele, who we think he's first choice, and he probably will be first choice, but he has a potential to lose his place. And then you've got Pickford, who I just really don't want to go near the Everton defense, to be honest.
Yeah.
And similar with Johnson, is he really going to get that many clean sheets? Probably not. You got to think that one of these 4.5 million guys is going to come good. I guess the reason I've gone for Onana is because I don't know which one of those 4.5 is going to come good. So got a little bit of safety with Onana. I suspect I will go down to a 4.5 and a 4.0 when I play my wild card, which, could be as early as game week 4 or 5.
Sure. Yeah, that makes complete sense. Okay, so that is it for the goalkeepers. Who is your first defender?
Gone for, pretty template first 2, I'll give you. Estupinian and Gabriel. I think they're in a lot of people's drafts. I don't think we need to spend too much time over them. But yeah, Estupinian, obviously very attacking. Brighton have got good fixtures. He's got great numbers, priced at 5 million. I can't really see sort of a good reason to not go for him. So yeah, he's a bit of a no-brainer. As is Gabriel, for very similar reasons. Arsenal got good fixtures. He's got good numbers, got good threat. Did consider Zinchenko a little bit, but yeah, the numbers just back up Gabriel. It's hard to argue against him. I think the only reason you wouldn't go for Gabriel is if you wanted to treble on Arsenal in attack, which I have considered a little bit, but as we'll come to later, I've actually only got one Arsenal attacker in this draft, and it's probably not the one you're thinking of. So I'm really not sure on Arsenal and exactly where to go, but yeah, definitely Gabriel's been in pretty much all my drafts so far.
Well, that is very interesting because a lot of people are tripled up just looking at those fixtures. Obviously, had a great season last year, but according to Arsenal fans, they think there might just be more rotation from the off. Obviously, a couple of signings have come in. Minutes may not be as secured, but yeah, interesting to see who you have later down the line. Okay, who's your third defender?
I've gone for Stones. Yeah, pretty much been in all of my drafts, to be honest. Man City are rock solid. The thing I like about Stones is that, he can play in a couple of different positions, and I think his minutes are fairly secure. Plus, he offers a little bit of goal threat and a little bit of bonus points potential. He's not just there for the clean sheet. So yeah, he's been in a lot of my drafts. And City have got great fixtures, and as we know, they're the best defense in the Premier League by some margin.
According to the tool and all the stats that the hub has to offer, Stones is the one that the AI, which we'll get onto later in the video, really, really likes a little bit of Man City coverage. Yet hasn't been in loads of drafts in the videos that I've done with guests. Why do you think that is?
I don't know, to be honest. Look, there are a lot of good 5.5 million defenders. But personally, I think it's absolutely mad. People aren't investing in the City back line. So much so that I've gone for 2 Man City defenders.
Wow.
Gone for Ruben Diaz as well.
Oh, wow.
For 5.5. So yeah, gone for the double up in the City defense. I think it's quite a nice differential. I'm pretty set on having 3 City players. Stones is pretty much a lock, as is, you can probably guess, the other one.
Yeah.
Diaz potentially could sneak into my draft. And yeah, for this one I've gone for, I really like him. I think that he's, as similar to Stones, really they've got great fixtures, they're rock solid defense. He's not quite, he doesn't quite get as forward as Stones and not quite as friendly on the bonus, but I still think he's a great option. And I really like having at least a couple of defenders in that 5.5 million price bracket, just because, you can quite easily switch to one of the Chelsea wing backs, the likes of Chilwell or James. I really like Shaw. I also quite like. So yeah, it just gives you a lot of flexibility, and I think there are a lot of good defenders in that price bracket. So I'm keen to have a couple of them.
Well, there we go. That is potentially the most differential defense that we've seen so far. The first guest on this series to have Ruben in their team. Really, really cool pick there. Now, unless you're playing a back 5, which I don't think you are, that means no Trent, right?
No Trent. Yeah, well, there is one Liverpool player, which we'll come to a little bit later. But yeah, no Trent. To be honest, these seasons gone past being like the first name of my team sheet, and I really, really like him as a pick. But I just think there's so much good value in that 5 to 5.5 million range, and I'm not quite as convinced as to his attacking output. I know he switched position, obviously, going more into midfield. Have a look at some of the friendlies, though. He seems to be playing a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
I don't like, they're just preseason friendlies, aren't they? So you got to sort of take it with a pinch of salt. But for 8 million, I'm not 100% set on him. That said, he could find a way into my team come game week 1. So I haven't certainly ruled him out at this point.
Sure. Yeah, a couple of weeks still to go, of course. But for now, that is a defense. Round us off. Who's going to be your 5th defender?
I've gone for Bulldog 4.0. To be honest, I haven't given the 4.0 million defenders a huge amount of thought, but I think he's set to get some minutes. So yeah, that's the main thing. Okay,
so that is it for the defense. I'm very, very interested now to see where this team is going. Midfield, here we go.
So I'll start with the more template ones before we get on to the more differentials. I've gone for Matoma. I think that he's, Brighton have got great fixtures. I think he's the closest that Brighton come to sort of a talismanic figure. Like the tricky thing about Brighton is that there are so many good options with good numbers, and they've got a couple of new signings as well. You've got Enciso, you've got March is the other one that I'm really considering. Great numbers last season, actually sort of outperformed, if you like, Matoma in terms of sort of the underlying data and the stats. Just again, watching a few of the pre-season friendlies, March seems to be drifting out wide. Matoma seems to be becoming more central. So that's kind of the only reason at the moment I've gone for Matoma. The tricky thing about Ryan is there's lots of decent options and there's no real standout talismanic figure, and I think Matoma comes closest to that, which is why I've pumped for him.
A lot of people are slightly concerned by his form at the back end of last season, but according to Brighton fans, there was a lot of fatigue there as well. Played a lot of minutes, and he looks back to near his best in pre-season.
Yeah, no, exactly that. I'm a Spurs fan, but I live near Brighton. I follow Brighton quite closely, and he did get fatigued towards the end of last season, but pre-season he seems fresh. I think that he's gonna start well. Brighton have got good fixtures. When he's fresh and he's in form, he's a great FPL pick.
Okay, who is next?
Mbomo, Brentford. With Tony gone, him on penalties, might be playing a striker, might not be, but he'll be far forward in any case. And he's got good numbers with Tony there. With Tony gone, you've got to think that those numbers are going to improve. Plus on penalties, plus Brentford has some good fixtures. Tottenham. First game, I actually think that's a really good fixture as a Spurs fan with Ange Postecoglou.
That's not good to hear.
I'm really excited about Ange coming in, by the way. I think that he is fantastic for Spurs. He's going to be, if we're patient with him, I think that he could be a fantastic manager for us and do really, really well. But short term, I think we're going to have some serious defensive issues just because there's so many changes going on and what he's sort of demanding of the players and how the big change in style, and we haven't really got the defenders to sort of match up with his his way of playing at the moment. And yeah, that first game, I certainly think early season Spurs are going to leak a lot of goals. So I think they'll score a few as well. And I haven't actually got a Spurs player in this lineup, unfortunately. But I've been considering a lot of them. And obviously, if Kane goes, Richarlison becomes a bit of a no-brainer. But if he doesn't, then I've also been looking at Maddison. I've also had a draft with Kane in not so long ago. So I do think that Spurs will score a lot of goals. But yeah, their defense is certainly a bit creaky. So I'm happy with them with my early doors.
The numbers completely back up what you're saying. As you can see here, predicted points, 5.2 points for Mbeumo in that home game to Spurs, which is more points predicted than in game week 3 at home to Palace, and very similar to Bournemouth in game week 4. So although you might look at that fixture as someone who maybe is not as close to Spurs like myself and think Spurs at home, top 6 team, traditionally quite a tough opening fixture, the underlying numbers are saying that might not be the case, and you're agreeing with that.
No, absolutely. I think that Spurs early doors are going to be one of the leakiest teams. I think they'll score a lot of goals, as I said, but yeah, I think they'll be very, very leaky early doors.
Very interesting. So a couple of 6.5 million players in there, a really nice price bracket. Who else are we going for?
I've gone for Rashford. I haven't gone for Bruno. Bruno's been in a few of my drafts, but yeah, if I was going to pick between the two of them, then Rashford would, to me, is a bit of a no-brainer.
Okay.
Over the two of them. If you look at his actual points per game over Bruno, he's, I think, 6 compared to 4.76 versus Bruno. So there's a big jump there. He has also got better underlying numbers. If you look at his expected points, a metric which I quite like to look at, sort of combines expected goals, expected assists into one metric. And you can do that on Fantasy Football Hub, by the way, if you want to go check that out. Link in the description. But yeah, you can compare his expected points to Bruno's, and again, Rashford is ahead on that front. And just what by the eye test, I think that he's playing much further up the pitch. Obviously, Bruno has penalties, but and Bruno is a great pick. He's going to get FPL points for sure. But yeah, if I had to choose between the two of them, I'd definitely go for Rashford. So yeah, plump for him. Man United got good early fixtures. Same with Onana, and yeah, I think that he's pretty much a lock in my team.
Yeah, I mean, over 40% owned at this point. A lot of people some people are mentioning that he's not in good form in pre-season, but pre-season is pre-season. As you already mentioned, you can't dive into it and look at all the data and all the numbers. I was watching Chelsea last night. We made 12 subs in the game because of an injury. So, it is a little bit silly at times, but it can give an indication. Okay, so that's Rashford. A lot of money still in the bank here is what I'm thinking. Where are we going next?
Probably not where you're thinking. So I've gone for an Arsenal mid, but it's probably not a very popular one. It's actually Odegaard.
Right, okay.
So obviously I really like Saka, but I've not gone for him in this draft. I think he's a great pick, but I was looking at it, and Odegaard is Arsenal's highest scoring player last season, full stop, right? He's the highest points per game, any Arsenal player. He's also got, better expected points compared to someone like Saka. And yet I see him in nobody's team. And Arsenal are great fixtures. And I'm quite confused by that somehow. I think Saka's a great pick, by the way. I don't want to slate him too much because he might end up being in my sort of final draft. Yeah. But I'm just really surprised that Odegaard isn't in more people's teams. And you also look at the introduction of Havertz and you think, who is Havertz going to take minutes off? I think he can play in all those front three positions, but most likely he's going to take minutes off Martinelli, probably some minutes off Jesus, potentially a few minutes off Saka as well. So I don't really see him taking minutes off Odegaard necessarily. So I think Odegaard's the most secure from a minutes point of view. He's also got the best statistics from last season. I can't really see a reason for, a reason to go another Arsenal mid over Odegaard. So that's currently where I've got at the moment.
That is a really, really it's a weird one because normally, FPL experts use a lot of underlying data to inform their decisions, right? And they will look at things like you're saying, expected points, expected goals, minutes. Odegaard was consistently playing full games last season, whereas someone like Saka wasn't. It must just be the fact that Saka is potentially on penalties, which is why people are swinging that way. Because as you say, all the numbers and just watching the games last season would suggest that Odegaard is a better pick. Yeah, the ownership stats right now don't really reflect that. So that means no Saka in your team then, I guess, from what you're saying. You said only one more Arsenal player. So that's it for the Arsenal attackers.
It is, yeah. And I think that's the biggest sacrifice of this team is that there is only one Arsenal attacker. Okay. And realistically, I would like to have two. If I think my favorite two are probably Odegaard and Saka. So I've not managed to squeeze Saka into this draft, who I do really like, if I'm being honest, because he's obviously an FPL beast. And Jesus, I also quite like. There's a chance that he might find his way into one of my final draft. But out of the three of them, I probably would choose Odegaard. The player that I do have in my midfield, though, is a certain Mo Salah. So he's
wow, there he is. He's made an appearance on this series.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, he's an FPL beast, right?
Absolutely.
Apart from Haaland last season, he's been the highest scoring player in FPL seasons gone by for so long, and I think he had a really strong end to last season. I think Trent moving into midfield really freed him up. Just looking at the numbers, he was pretty much operating on Haaland levels of points and expected points underlying data towards the back end of last season. And yet, on top of all of that, we've got the ability to, I think, create pretty decent team with Haaland and Salah and still get a good team out because of the budget friendly, how budget friendly the rest of the players are. But to me, it's strange I haven't seen him in more drafts. I think that the other big positive to him is the Bournemouth at home in game week 2. I think if Bournemouth was game week 1, I think we see a lot more people with Salah in their draft. But with Bournemouth game week 2, they're playing against Chelsea away game week 1. And by the way, I think Chelsea will be quite good in attack, but similar to Spurs, they're changing systems a little bit under Poch, and I can see them being a bit leaky. So I'm not particularly worried about having Salah in that first game. And if Salah scores and does well in that first game, people are going to be scrambling, I think, to get him for, game week 2 against Bournemouth, where he's got an incredible record. Salah also starts the season incredibly well pretty much every season, and to have a big differential captain in game week 2 against Bournemouth is pretty exciting. And people are saying it makes your team a little bit inflexible. I actually don't think that. I think it makes it more flexible. I can switch down to, I don't know, a Foden or a Fernandes or a Saka really easily, and then upgrade a defender or a striker in that game week 3. The likes of the Chelsea strikers I really like, maybe switch to a Jesus in game week 3. I think it gives a lot of flexibility having one of the most expensive players in the game in your team that you can just downgrade to anyone and upgrade elsewhere. So I actually really like Salah. I think he's a great pick. Huge differential in game week 2 could get your season off to a bit of a flyer.
A lot of people have been speaking about captaining Haaland. It's just locked in for the first 6 or 7 game weeks, but Newcastle at home game week 2, obviously it's still a good fixture, and you wouldn't back against Haaland at home to anyone. If you compare that to Salah, Bournemouth at home, given everything that we know from years gone by, you're right. You're enticing me here. What a differential that would be. One thing that you make a great point about is if that Bournemouth at home game was first and the Chelsea game was second, you're right, it would change everyone's opinion, I think, and there'd be a lot more people having him in drafts right now. It's just the fact that those fixtures are switched. In reality, it's going to be really hard to get to Salah after game week 1, isn't it? So why do you think that is? Is it just kind of a Chelsea away, we can leave him for a little bit?
Potentially, yeah. Look, people always focus on the game week in front of them, don't they? And people are, I can't remember what bias that is, but we want quick rewards, and focusing on the next fixture often makes the most sense for that. But I just think that that Bournemouth at home fixture is just so juicy to me. Probably one of the fixtures of the season, isn't it? And Salah always does well against Bournemouth. I think was that the Liverpool when they smashed them last season?
The 9-0.
I think it was 9-0.
Was it with no Salah return? Was that
It was no Salah. Yeah, that was the one. So I hope that doesn't happen again. But I think that Liverpool get their mojo back this season, and Salah's obviously going to play a big part of that in that. So I quite like it. Look, it's not one that I'm 100% set on, but the more I sort of play around with it, and I'm beginning to really like it. And as I said, it's basically a 2-week punt. And then if it hasn't worked out, then you've got a load of flexibility to move to any other midfielder that's banging form, or and switch your team right up from game week 3 when there's a little bit of a fixture swing, isn't it? Like the Chelsea guys, some really good fixtures from game week 3 onwards. So bringing in a Chelsea forward as part of 2 transfers could work really well, or go for a Chelsea defender, or there's lots of things you can do, isn't there? So quite like Salah. pretty not set on him, but beginning to lean that way.
The first guest, as I said, that's even given him a little bit of a mention. The majority of other guests have just jumped straight to a man that is in your team nonetheless, but at least you're giving a little bit of a different perspective. So that is it for the midfield. I think the rest of the team pretty much bills itself, right?
Yeah. So just Haaland and 4.5s up front. And look, this is where the sacrifice comes in. Going with Salah, you don't have 3 Arsenal players. I've only got 1 Arsenal attacker, which I think is, with their fixtures, it's a big risk, especially when I'm going for one that's pretty differential. So that's the sort of the risk you're taking here, and you're not going with the Jesus. I also really like Darwin. He's been putting up some numbers in pre-season, and if there's a hint that he's going to get some serious minutes, then I think it's tempting to go for a Haaland and Darwin sort of combination up front, and then maybe look at, probably in that situation you would have to drop Salah. But at the moment, Salah nailed on penalties. It's hard to, he's obviously the best Liverpool asset, and that game week 2 captaincy. But yeah, just to complete the front line, I've gone with Archer and I think you say McAtee or something like that.
Yes. From Luton.
Another 4 point. Basically any 4.5.
Sure.
None of them are going to get any good minutes. You have got a super weak bench, only really Bulldog there. But again, it's really just for those first 2 weeks, and then I'll probably most likely downgrade Salah to like a Foden or someone else, and upgrade, an Archer to, one of the Chelsea forwards or a Jesus or something like that, I'd imagine, in game week 3.
So there we go. That is the team. 4-5-1. Really, really differential draft in its structure. But the players that are in there, we are seeing a lot of in quite a lot of teams. 8 or 9 are pretty set. But Salah, Ruben Dias, Odegaard, a few differentials in there to make me think that this percentage, I don't know, what could it be? What are you thinking team rating wise? Are you expecting a high number here?
So having helped build this algorithm, I kind of got a pretty good idea of what it's going to be, if I'm if I'm being honest. but yeah, I haven't actually plugged it in 100% into my team. So yeah, please tell me, reveal all.
97%. That's really high. That's really pretty good given that there's no Saka in there. Yeah, the 4-5-1. That is impressive. It really is. What I'm noticing with a lot of these drafts that are quite different. Yeah, a good number of the players are the same, but having someone like a Ruben in there. But Salah's predicted points are still excellent, and that can contribute to a really high team rating, despite the fact that you have no Trent, for example. So 97%, you've got to be delighted with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It sort of backs up my thinking around it. And yeah, I think that there's a lot of different... when the game first launched, I was quite worried because, the prices seemed low, and I didn't think there would be... I don't know, I thought all the teams would be very template, but there's actually quite a few different drafts that you can come up with. And look, I'm not a fan of being different just for the sake of being different, but I think there are ways that you can differentiate in quite an exciting way. And, a draft like this, I think, has the potential to get a big jump on those mid-league rivals early doors.
So there we go, 97% team rating. It doesn't give much room for improvement, but guys, if you want to try this out yourself, the link to do so is down in the description. Will, from your point of view, you've created this entire thing. What do you think the benefit is to the My Team tool in general, and seeing team ratings like this?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's just so powerful being able to visualize your team. I think one of the things that I really like to do is actually sort of toggle forward. You can see how your team's going to look for the next game week. And it's such a simple thing, but just having to, visualize what your team's going to look like in game week 2, you can automatically spot the weaknesses. And the fact that we've done a huge upgrade to the AI this season, and we've put a lot of time in the suggested transfers, it's just, so it's a really exciting feature. And yes, you don't need to follow it like religiously each game week, because I think that, for some that might take a little bit of the joy out of it. But it just gives you a bit of a sense check in terms of where the weaknesses are in your team, how to potentially get around them, and, give you potentially a little bit of a different idea, and maybe spark a thought process that might go on to not necessarily the transfer that it recommends, but a similar transfer. And, we've got a hell of a lot more features coming for game week 1. So we've got customizable transfers where you can sort of filter or point the AI in the direction you want. So if you want a more differential player, you can tell the AI that you want a player under a certain ownership. or, if you want players selected by, different teams or various other features, then you can have more customizability over those transfers. And we've got a new mini league feature launching as part of my team that gives some fun rewards and gives it sort of a live mini league update and lots of other fun features. So this is the tool that, if you want to go check out Fantasy Football Hub, I highly, highly recommend it. And, check out the suggested AI transfers on it as well. And it might give you a little bit of a different flavor to how your team can shape up.
Well, that is exactly what we're about to get into. By far and away, my favorite feature is the AI recommended transfers. I just think they're brilliant. An unbiased opinion. Letting you know, listen, you've made a mistake here. How about this? It can be brutal sometimes if you go with a player that you really think is a fun pick and the AI just says, maybe not. But it can also just really open your mind to things that you hadn't thought about. We're going to get straight into that right now. Okay, Will. So here are your recommended transfers. And I don't know. I don't know if you're going to like them, but they're here for a reason. Guys, if you want to get your own recommended transfers personalized to your team, every single week, not just before the season, every single week you can get these recommended transfers. The link to sign up to Fantasy Football Hub is down below in the description. And right now you get 50% off. The amazing thing as well is if you sign up right now and you do not win your mini league this season, you will get all your money back. That is how confident that Will and the team are in the product, in the website. If you use it, and you get all the benefits out of it, they are so confident that you're going to win your mini league that you can get all your money refunded if you don't. Pretty incredible stuff. Link down below. Okay, well, here are the recommended transfers. Onana is gone for Alisson. Now, obviously, that you need a little bit of money to fund that, but just off the rip, Alisson in Liverpool defensive coverage. What do you think about that?
It's interesting. Not personally, not one that I would consider. I think that, the way the algorithm is built, let's just say we're a little bit conservative when new players get signed for clubs. We tend to err on the side of not over predicting, which I think is probably the right thing to do. So I think Onana's predicted points are probably a little bit on the low side, so I can understand why it's sort of suggesting Alisson. And Liverpool have got some decent early fixtures, and he's a great pick as to sort of get some Liverpool defensive coverage. But yeah, personally, I see either Onana or 4.5 for me.
Okay, now next up, we need to fund that, of course. Salah, the crux of your entire draft. I feel pain saying this to you, but the AI is recommending that Salah goes for Bruno Fernandes. Another player that you mentioned, of course. But what do you think there? Sad.
Yeah, it's a bit sad, but I can't really argue with it. From a sort of a pure logical AI perspective, I'm not at all surprised that it's sort of saying to get rid of Salah, just because, someone like Bruno is a bit of an FPL monster as well. And, their predicted points, yes, Salah will be predicted to score more points than Fernandes, but it won't be hugely different for someone like Fernandes, and you're saving, 4 million. So yeah. I can understand that, and it does make sense. Plus, the AI sort of takes into account your future captaincies. And obviously I'm planning Salah as captain in game week 2. But the reality is that Haaland will probably be predicted to score more points than Salah in game week 2.
He is just,
yeah, it's going to be marginal, but from the AI's perspective, it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You've already got a good captain.
Exactly,
so yeah,
exactly.
I can understand that one as well.
The good thing about these moves is that it gives you a much stronger squad, and it also enables you to get another Arsenal attacker in. So Jesus comes in for Archer, which means you have kind of 12 playing players. You mentioned the fact that one of the drawbacks of having Salah was not having a double Arsenal attack. The AI has said just rectify that immediately. What do you think there?
Yeah, again, I can't argue with that. And look, if I did those moves, specifically Salah to Fernandes and Archer to Jesus, you're not far off the template, are you?
No.
So, which, his template for a reason is that it's very, very strong. Jesus is a great pick. Fernandes is a great pick. And if you add both of those points up and compare them to Salah and Archer, then there's only going to be one winner, isn't there? So yeah, unfortunately, you sometimes can't argue too much with the AI overlords. But yeah, for me, I still might go with Salah just for that game week 2 captaincy, and then potentially you could do a move like that in game week 3, bring Fernandes in and bring Jesus in game week 3.
These moves also would mean that you have a stronger squad, but quite a lot of money on the bench. You'd be benching one of Diaz and Burma, Mitoma, a player that you really don't want to be benching, especially given the fixtures of those 3 early season. You have as little money as you possibly can have on the bench right now. Do you think that's a little bit risky? Would you like to have a playing player? You have Bulldog there, of course, but he's not one that you'd want to come in. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And again, it's one of the drawbacks again of going with Salah. I think that ideally you would have, well, in a lot of my other drafts, you've gone for three at the back and a Pinnock or Henry as first sub, and I think that's good enough. I don't like spending a lot of money on the bench though, and with the players that you've got, they're all pretty nailed on starters. There aren't too many risks in there, so I think I'd be happy with Bulldog as first sub. But yeah, in an ideal world, if you've got a bit of money left over, then you'd go for a 4.5 defender probably.
Well, there we go. Nonetheless, the site loves it. 97%. Can't really complain with that. That puts you in very good stead among other FPL experts that we've had on the channel. Will, thank you very much for revealing your current FPL drafts. Of course, as you've mentioned the whole way, this may change later on as we get closer and closer to the deadline. And if you want to see that, will you be revealing your team on the website?
I will be, yes. Yeah,
there we
so
go.
if you want to see, sign up to Fantasy Football Hub and you'll see my final draft.
Link to that down below in the description. Guys, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.